Hello, everybody. My name is Karl. I am from the Human Tech Institute at the University of Applied Sciences in Switzerland. As well, I am part of the Humanist team for University of Fribourg and the co-founder of Empathic Labs Group. This project was done by myself, Jacky, Casas, Omar, Khaled, and Elena Mugellini. We're wondering about the empathic responses. And for this project, we focused on the medical assistance and diagnosis. First, let's start by a small introduction about just empathy. Empathy was defined in 1903 by Theodore Lipps, firstly, who was defined as the father of scientific theory of empathy as the infeeling or the feeling into something. But studying the literature, we found out that there is 43 distinct definitions for empathy. So until now, we have no defined, implementation of empathy or definition. In 2006, Desity and Jackson found out that defined empathy as the ability to understand and respond to the unique, affective experiences of another person. And in advances in 2016, it was defined by Saylor and Craig as an interaction between two individuals who share each other experiences and feeling. For example, if we take an example, if you have a broken shoulder and you met someone who already have a broken shoulder, this type of empathic interaction can have between two people who had the same situation. When we talk about empathy, we talk about emotions, but what is an emotion? Everyone knows what is an emotion until asked to give a definition. That was mentioned by Fair and Russell, which is true at some point. But an emotion is a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances and past. But then we ask ourselves, what is a feeling? And here when things gets complicated. So Ekmans have defined 6 basic emotion model, which defines anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise as the basic model of emotions. Then emotions grow to we can find models with 128 emotions nowadays. So now going back to empathy, what are the empathy types? We can find in the literature, we have 2 types of empathy. We have the affective and the cognitive empathy. The affective empathy is to recognize the other person's emotions and respond emotionally to it. As for the cognitive empathy, it is to understand the feelings of someone else by taking their perspective. So here we ask ourselves, will one day the chatbots have empathy in it, and under which type of forms? So what are the types of empathic responses? From evaluating the empathic responses, it was done by Sihal and her team, and they found out that both cognitive and affective empathic responses have positive effect. And they studied emotion mirroring, they studied supportive responses, which are more common than emotion mirroring, and paraphrasing that can be good to show cognitive empathy. Some examples of empathy and chatbots. We have an empathic chatbot that was developed by Tu and al. In 2017 that was trained on over 1 million Twitter conversation. And here the chatbot was as good as human agents in showing empathy, even in short-term conversations. Moving on, we have a health chatbot example where Liu and Sundar have scripted a chatbot for sympathy, for cognitive empathy and affective empathy. They haven't seen any difference between the empathy ratings for empathic chatbots, but the conversation was scripted. So this may have influenced the ratings bit for these chatbots. So today we talk about empathy and emotions. There is a lot of ways to measure empathy, but there is no standard measurement or evaluation for empathy in robots. Nowadays, all what we do is we use questionnaire based on the human metrics, and what the human are feeling based on some questionnaires. So Charrier and his team proposed a robust perceived empathy scale called ROPE, where actually they used the empathy metrics of the human and they adapted it to robots in order to be able to scale and quantify the empathy in robots. But what is our concept? Our concept today is to create a medical empathic advice chatbot that can give information to the user about his symptoms by understanding his symptoms and emotions. We will have to compare these two chatbots, the one with empathy, the one without empathy. For that, we used different tools. Since this is a preliminary prototype, we used in NLTK from Python, the chat model from NLTK, based on pattern recognition, the emotion detection with Empath, and diagnosis with the symptom checker API MADIC. So what is the goal of the two chatbots? The first chatbot, the advice-only chatbot, it will ask relevant questions about the diagnosis, like, could you tell me where the problem is located? And then it will not analyze the user feelings. It will not respond empathically. It will just give the diagnosis to your user directly. As for the empathic chatbot, it will ask the related question to the diagnosis. It will ask about the user feelings, analyze it. The emotion detection API will analyze the 6 basic emotions mentioned in the first section, and then it will send an appropriate empathic response with the diagnosis. This will help actually to see the difference between the two chatbots. For the evaluation of the two chatbots, as mentioned, we will use ROPE as our metric. So the chatbots were tested on 12 participants. Each participant reflected on a disease they are familiar with. Let's say, for example, headache. The user has discussed with the chatbot about the symptoms until a diagnosis is found. The ROPE questionnaire was used with a 5-point Likert scale to rate the empathy of the chatbot. Each of the participants have tested both chatbots. So we have split it into 2 groups. Each group will start with one of the chatbots in order to decrease the learning effect. So here in the evaluation, we can see that the advice-only chatbot on the left, that it have 52% frequency of from the Likert ROPE scale, that we have only 3 grades. 52% have chosen the 3rd grade. As for the empathic chatbot, we can see that we have around 68% frequency for the 4th grade, which leads us to the quantitative study, where we have seen the average of the empathy advice only chatbot is 2.56 over 5. As for the empathic chatbot, it is 3.35 over 5. For the participants' preferences, we have seen that 9 have preferred the empathic chatbot, 2 has preferred the advice only, and 1 have no preferences for the chatbot. This might be one of the conclusion that the person just only want the diagnosis. As for conclusion, the empathy in medical chatbot assistant and diagnosis is important, especially to understand and feel the users in order to show them support and care for them from the assistant or just the team itself. As well, we have found out that the ROPE scale results and the participant preferences are really synchronized, which makes us a good results. And we don't have to forget to mention that this is only a preliminary prototype, so the study is just at the beginning. As for our future steps, we are looking forward to implement an NLP and NLU models for the user understanding. So whenever to have the conversation flow as just normal conversation between humans. Second, the emotion analysis based on the past discussions, which can be really interesting that the chatbot will not forget the user. Third, we will have to train an empathic model for empathic response generation. So in order to have a chatbot that is perfectly empathic, it will have to understand first the user, then analyze it, then be able to respond and generate responses from outside the context. Finally, we'll have to test and evaluate this chatbot with more participants and then maybe extend it to other type of assistants. Finally, I will leave you with this code or question. Will empathic chatbots be able to assist us and anytime soon? Let's hope for that, and thank you so much. These are some references that you can find about the presentation.